When I think of the post-apocalypse combined with horror, I think of the Stalker games. Even though its setting is all contained within a locked-off exclusion zone, it feels like the world has really ended, and you, along with other stalkers seeking their fortunes within the horrors of the zone, are just postponing the inevitable. The first and third games contain some of my most memorable gaming experiences. Shadow of Chernobyl and Call of Pripyat, yeah, not you, I didn't like you, were two games I regularly revisited when I was a teenager. Particularly Call of Pripyat, due to its emphasis on each mission feeling unique in some way. A staple of the games were its very impressive atmosphere, especially at the time, and its dynamic world. Zone is a location that really feels alive. Random encounters with the AI can make memorable experiences, some that modern games still can't tackle. I mean, we've all experienced or seen something related to the horror factor in these games. No matter how many times I replay either game or revisit any of the mods, I always run into something that makes me jump. I'd say these dynamic encounters have aged very well, but we'll put that to the test. You're most likely already aware of this series, it being already pretty popular, and because of the resurgence of mods that enhance the experience significantly, making it a lot more harder. If it still doesn't ring any bells, it's the game where you see all those weapon inspection thumbnails from. However, I want to revisit the zone in its purest form. Since it's my most played game out of all three entries, I want to revisit Stalker Call of Pripyat to see if the vanilla experience still holds up. We'll be seeing how the atmosphere is, the world, the quests, and overall content of the game. And who knows, if you're interested, I may even cover Shadow of Chernobyl, so do let me know. When we start the game, we get some background information about the game's setting, and then we get our plot. We are Major Alexander Degtyarev, USS agent sent to investigate the radio silence from a team that was sent in on an operation. Given a sunrise suit and a basic rifle to help us fit in with the local populace. And then, when the intro ends, we're dropped right into the game. Now, what's great about Call of Pripyat is that you have full access to the open world right off the bat, allowing you to travel wherever you want, picking your own objectives, or just exploring at your own pace. For me, however, I do what I always do, and I make my way to Skevdolsk. I talk to a man named Grouse who tells us about missing stalkers, how their blood has been completely drained from their bodies, Grouse blaming it on bloodsuckers. Next, we talk to a hunter named Gonta.
Hey, Stalker! Come here!
That wants us to find a man called Magpie who double-crossed them, stealing their loot and leaving Gonta's squad to fend off a chimera. For this quest we can't complete at the moment since Magpie isn't even in Zatan. Saved some money there. Oh, right, this guy.
The beans!
Owl gives us a quest to steal a laptop from a merc camp stationed near one of the helicopters that we must investigate. However, before we head off and do that, I have one thing I need to handle first. I'm called over to talk with the local bandit leader, a man named Sultan. He wants us to stage an ambush at a nearby stalker camp located inside of another ship. However, I really dislike bandits. So much so that I take my time to hunt down every last one of them whenever I'm out and about. It's only principle. Instead, I, rather suspiciously, walk over to Beard, the local leader of Skevdolsk, and inform him about the bandits' plan. He tells me to go along with Sultan's plan, and with that being said, we go out with the gang. The bandits ignore the fact that I'm shining the literal light of God upon their forsaken cadavers, and once the signal goes off, I too open fire. We make short work of these bastards. I go over to the leader of the group, a stalker named Spartacus. We report back to Beard, and we're given an additional quest to meet up with our boys at a ranger station. We sneak up and listen in, hearing weapons deal between the bandits and a member of duty. Spartacus gives us the go-ahead, and after a few deaths, or a lot actually, these guys are really tough early on, we make short work of them. I loot the remains, collect my first reward from Spartacus, and make my way to Beard for my final reward. But wait, I actually lied. Before we go over to Beard, Spartacus gave us the location of a stash right across the street. There, we find a Spaz 12 right off the bat, less than half an hour into the game. It's a decent weapon to have early on. Make short work of mutants, especially bloodsuckers and snorks. This will definitely be important later. Before I take on the local bloodsucker problem, I ask around and I am told about the location of a man named Noah who can help us bypass the rough terrain, allowing us to get right up to one of the crashed helicopters. Also, I lied. Before I inquired about Noah, I found the first helicopter, which is guarded by a poltergeist. They're not too bad, just shoot the blurry obstruction, feel free to check the bodies for ammo. Somehow, the crew died mid-air, causing it to crash, cause, nobody was there to fucking pilot it. We do, however, find maps of the area. These will allow us to fast travel between zones for only 1,000 rubles, since the guide will offer a big discount once we give them to him. Now, back to Noah. He gives us this warm, Eastern European welcome. Then I go inside and talk with the man. He's holding out inside this old barge for a day when the mutant horde descends upon the zone. Anyway, his dog's pretty cool. He leads us to a field of roaring flames, having us watch the path he takes before he leaps into an invisible anomaly that seems to transport him away to the plateau. Immediately I receive these 6-degree burns somehow. Before reloading a save and just sprinting to the end of the trail, suddenly I'm brought to a position overlooking the circus anomaly, which is an anomaly that definitely didn't give me any trouble whatsoever. Stingray 3 had full engine problems. We find a map that marks evacuation points. Now we do our next lead, but there's still more to do in Zatan. So quickly, as Noah mentioned, there's a snork nest nearby, so I run over there and I take them out, but I get jump scared in the process. But I do prevail in the end. Real quick, actually, I just want to talk about the snorks. Their design is just so disturbing, and I love it. Other than the bloodsuckers, to me, they are the most iconic mutants. The snarls, the way they crawl at you, all the way down to their gas masks and clothes that are just evenly burnt into their flesh. I think the fact that they just look so human sells the horror factor to me more. You know for a fact that I will be really tense the moment I hear that snork snarl off in the distance. God, what a sentence. That took me like 7 tries to do, by the way. Since we're literally right next to it, let's complete this scumbag's quest. And by scumbag, I mean Owl. This guy. The amount of times I wanted to just absolutely eviscerate him and feed him to the dogs every time he said,
Don't let the door hit you.
oh my god, dude. Made the zone take him. He told us that we can sneak inside and steal a laptop with data that he wants, but Stealth and Stalker, I'm not gonna lie, it kinda sucks. It's pretty bad, and it is marginally more fun to engage in a firefight. However, these mercs are a little difficult. Took me a few tries to wipe them out. Doesn't help that they seem to laser you when you peek out for more than a nanosecond. I am able to outgun them, however. I loot the remains, I secure the data for Owl. Took me like half an hour, but in the end, I did it. I repair my gear with Cardon before turning in the maps to the guide. Right before I commence hunting the blood-sucking filth, I go over to the abandoned ferry. Beard wants us to investigate strange glows at night inside of the ferry. Other than vortex anomalies and radiation, you will only have to deal with a gang of stalkers that try to rob you if you don't offer up the artifact. Instead, I roll for initiative, miss the first time, roll again, and wipe out this little gang of robbers. Beard pays us, nothing else to really say. However, let's turn to a more eventful quest. A rookie loner wants us to delve deep into a crater to search a car, which contains a lockbox full of loot. With Stalker being, well, Stalker, an earthquake just happens to happen where that loot's stashed, and it ruptures the ground, sending the vehicle pummeling into the abyss. Of course, we have to navigate down there because the rookie was way too lazy to do it himself, or maybe too scared. Once you make it to the bottom, the real challenge only just begins. You're inside of a cavern filled with snorks. Amazing. I quickly make my way out and return to our little swamp icebreaker. Don't give the box to the loner, though. Instead, you can go up to Cardon for a rather cheap price, and he will crack the box open for you, allowing you to take the loot inside. Fight your own battles, loser. Okay, now we can get into the big quest, one of my favorites in the game. While investigating the place Grouse marked, we get a call from him. As I'm traveling, I happen upon a bloodsucker. I quickly dispatch it, walking over to get a close-up of the body. Clear eyes, bloody tendrils, and sharp claws to match. You can even see the outline of its brain when you look at its head. It is disgusting. Absolute nasty creature. And we're about to enter an entire nest filled with them. Can't wait. Grouse starts to sneak around, and he tells you to follow his lead. However, there are only 2 bloodsuckers on the surface level. You can go off on your own to find them. The first one jump scares me and is brought down quickly. However, the second one does indeed jump me, and it does not end well. Somehow, on my second go at it, I threw a grenade at him, and he fucking survived, because of course he did. He had stalkers, so why not? Grouse and I descend the elevator shaft. I investigate a corpse beyond the locked gate while Grouse investigates the other room. Claw marks are obvious wounds that signify a bloodsucker attack, but Grouse comments how they're vastly different from the other bodies. Also, can I just comment on these names real quick? Ramka Ice. Kostya Ravioli. Step Up Hitman, that's like the most normal one. Dimka Tight, what the fuck?
Shh. It's full of sleeping bloodsuckers. Let's try to get by them without making any noise.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Sneaking in between the sleeping bloodsuckers is tense. Afterwards, I follow Grouse to the exit, and he tells me to talk to Beard about wiping out the nest while he investigates more on the previous bodies. Real quick though, since we're right outside of it, I take a detour to the next helicopter. I love this anomaly, personally. The way it looks just gives off this eerie feeling. Pripyat features a ton of unique anomalies you can navigate through, but this one just looks the most eerie out of them all. The bulbous mounds of water surrounded by its toxic green hue along with the ominous sound that emanates around you, almost as if something is calling to you to delve deep within its void. Anyway, the helicopter's electronics burnt out. Our only lead is the evacuation points on the maps and the crashed helicopters in Jupiter. Like I said, we're nowhere near finished with Zatan, but we're getting close. Beard concludes that the best way to deal with the layer is to just gas them out. I talked to Owl since Beard mentioned him, and he's a local informant, so he's bound to know something. But I'm gonna save you some money. Do not pay Owl a freaking dime. Just make your way towards the ranger station, you'll see a bridge. Slowly navigate the anomalies, take your time with Stalker ladder physics. Oh, look at that, see the animals getting quirky at this time of day. Find a crate with a key and a note that hints where the next key is located. We need 2 to open up the crate in the center truck. Eventually, you will make your way below the bridge. Once again, secure the final key. Once that's done, you can backtrack to the bloodsucker layer and air that bitch out. You'll have to wait less than a minute, but it's still nerve-wracking since the bloodsucker's silhouettes don't appear until they're right up close to your face, giving you a short window to either dodge or fire away to ward it off. Once that's done, we can head to Beard to collect our reward. However, there's still the case with Grouse. He hasn't shown up yet, and after waiting a day, we learn that Grouse left Beard a message for us, that we have to ask him about, by the way, that he's gone over to the cranes. Exploring the site, we find the body of Danila the Hunter, a fellow stalker that Grouse mentioned earlier in the quest that went to go and investigate the bloodsucker rumors. Inside, we find a morbid sight. Skerdolsk's medic stands over Grouse's body on the operating table. Here, we learn the truth. Although the bloodsuckers were a problem, the missing stalkers weren't victims of them, but from the doctor himself, a murder living right under our noses. The doctor claims he has a hemoglobin addiction. Extended periods without blood causes the cravings to increase. He expected the environment of the zone to really just counteract that need for blood. Fortunately, he was wrong. Therefore, he sillily, that's a word I made up, turns himself into the Lord's custody, and we loot the medical supplies, leaving the hut and reporting our findings to Beard. Although we no longer have a doctor, we will get daily medical supplies placed into our stash as a reward for helping solving the case. Overall, yeah, I really enjoyed this quest. Shame about Grouse though. It was pretty chill. Finally, let's cover a classic gameplay mechanic featured throughout all Stalker games: artifact hunting. As I previously mentioned, each anomaly in Pripyat is kinda unique in its own way. Whether you're dashing through flames, creeping within cracks of the earth as fire rains over you with toxic puddles all around, or whether you see this thing. This is a bug, it's a psi anomaly called the Scar anomaly. If you don't have psi protection, you will fall pretty quickly. Let's go over my first adventure. I go over to the burnt farmstead. I grab a ton of fire-related artifacts, although my suit does take a hit. I do have this funny clip of me trying to escape though. Also, up top there's a stash marked, which is just a Ventura, as I think it's pronounced. I don't know, I'm not googling it. I like this gun a lot. It's not as good as it is in Metro 2033 or Last Light. Yes, I listed 2 completely different games, but I still enjoy using it in Stalker. Nearby, I enter this cavern, navigating the anomalies to grab the artifacts, but also a suit of a man named Barge, along with a PDA. This man is related to a quest involving Cardon, which has us finding the whereabouts of his friends after they went their separate ways following a fight. The suit, and soon to be the gas mask that we'll recover from his friend Joker, are unique and just upgraded versions of what you already have, but they are good to take early on. I, unfortunately, did not do that. Flashing forward a bit, we get to this arched structure which has chemical anomalies below it. Sure, I grabbed the artifacts, but if you search the area, you can find a skeleton and a gas mask, completing the suit of both improved apparels, but we also find Joker's PDA claiming there's an artifact up top and just giving more flavor dialogue about why him and Barge left Cardon on bad terms. So I climb my way up and secure this silly little thing. I turn in the quest to give Cardon some solace, and I make my way to another outpost, which houses the remaining mercs in the region. You could complete their quest to get inside peacefully, but I decided, no. After you wipe them out, you're free to loot a set of fine tools. I'll show you the common tools just before we leave. A circus anomaly. I hate this thing. Keeping it short because I died multiple times and spent 8 whole minutes trying to get these 3 artifacts because I decided to just rush in and not change my strategy because I'm an intelligent individual. I'm Godzillia's drunk elf. The boiler anomaly. A rookie Stalker is testing his new suit, but he ultimately gets hit by a force of boiling hot steam. Instinctually, I run over and offer him a medkit. I mean, why would I leave him to die like that? That's cruel. Okay, in Stalker, I try to at least play a decent human being, unlike bandits. Did I mention I don't like bandits? In exchange, he gives me one of his artifacts. I drop down to the anomaly to grab an additional relic, but as I'm climbing my way out, a pack of fucking pseudo-dogs just jumps the 2, tearing them apart. Good lord. For all my years of playing this game, in this specific area, that has never happened before. Which brings me to my next little tangent. Stalker's World offers a new experience each time you boot the game up simply because of the AI. You'll see stalkers minding their own business, traveling around, engaging in firefights, and so on.
Hey, bro.
When those encounters happen to you, they become a lot more memorable. Another example is when I was making my way to the burnt farmstead, I was attacked by hordes of mutants, a lot more than normal. I swear to God it was the rain that was making the local fauna act all quirky. I'm sure you heard about how raw random encounters can be in mods like Anomaly or Gamma, but in Vanilla Stalker, I think they all hit the same. Obviously, Gamma and Anomaly are more vast in scale simply because they combine all the Stalker maps compared to Pripyat, which just has a compact world. I really hope the second game features this. Random little combat encounters can really enhance the experience by a large amount. Another one I had when I was exploring Zatan is with the zombies at the sawmill. When I was systematically taking them out, I thought everything was clear, and then suddenly I get jumped. This was actually really tense, just getting cramped inside this house from a horde that jumped me. Zombies are something I didn't really go over. They're these stalkers whose brains got fried when they were caught outside in a mission, or when they were trying to pass north into the zone, past the brain scorcher, and all that stuff. It's actually kind of sad. You can hear dialogue of them talking about family members and such. It's really depressing, actually. I make my way back to Skidolsk and I gather up my collection of artifacts, and I walk over the beard, and as you can see, we make a load of cash. Even getting an in-game achievement for being so rich. The culmination of all of our achievements has amassed us a great deal of wealth. Therefore, I decided to go a little big before I leave Zatan. This is Nimble. He's capable of obtaining high-class weapons and armor. Good thing about him is that you can pay up front if you don't have the funds, leaving to obtain more, or just to explore if you don't want to wait. I purchased a sniper rifle. I didn't get the cool one, which is just a Dragunov, but the shorter rifle in Stalker is still good from my experience. However, the hefty price of hardware is the exosuit. When playing Stalker, you most likely see other Stalkers with these suits, them taking rounds like it's nothing. The suit prevents you from running, but you'll be able to carry more, tank damage, and utilize night vision. These suits are rare, but they're worth it if you don't mind the lack of sprint capability. Anyways, I upgrade my armaments.
Here's to a steady.
I talk to the guide, and I finally head off to Jupiter. Finally, Jupiter. There's marginally more infrastructure to pace out the empty space compared to the swamps of Zatan. When I arrive at Yanov Station, I make my rounds and start engaging with the local population, picking up some quests to get a foothold in the region. I agree to help out this region's mechanic, Nitro, to find tools and radio parts. In exchange, he will allow hefty discounts towards upgrades and repairs. I go downstairs, I talk with the local hunter, and he gives me a mission to hunt down some bloodsuckers that are resting in a nearby swamp. However, we have an interesting quest here. Approaching a stalker in an exosuit, he asks us about advice about what I do if I had to rescue someone from a group of bandits. To sum it all up, I told him that we should remove them from this plane of reality, and he agreed. Tells me to meet up with a group of his friends, and I arrive at 3 AM, meet up with the stalkers, and we take our positions before commencing Operation Catharsis.
Thanks for saving me.
After freeing the stalker, I go to loot the bodies, and I see that one of our brothers sadly fell in a firefight. He did, however, carry on him an upgraded version of the Vintar. Did I ever use a superior version with a higher MAD capacity? No. Anyway, I make my way back, stop inside this train car to get some tools, collect my rewards, and I set off down to handle the bloodsuckers. This encounter happened to be quite troublesome for me. I took up my positions to attack at range, but a lot of them head off into the reeds upon firing, with the exception of one, who charged towards my direction, turning invisible. I froze. Then I lurked, my weapon ready, and my body tense to take on these monstrosities. Fortunately for them, the water ripples gave them away, preventing a jump scare and reminding me of Priscilla from Dark Souls, except excitement wasn't something that resonated throughout my entire body upon seeing her, rather it being fear. Yes, I actually managed to drop one of them with a knife. That Stalker in the Steam page images has finally been vindicated. I make my way towards the silos. I first make my way down to deal with the local CRPG rat problem before I hit up a secret stash of medical supplies. This next part is kinda scary. You have to shimmy your way across this narrow incline. Be sure not to fall, because last time I fell, that shit indeed hurt. Also, it's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Not by experience, Stepsis, I swear to God. But there is a stash here at the top which has a tactical helmet if you're interested in that. I slowly make my way through the building, avoiding anomalies, not avoiding the sentient grass. Ow, fuck. And finally ducking outside to pick up an artifact. Actually, I wonder what this one's called. Oh my god, what the fuck? What are you aiming at? Should I be worried? Hello? I make my way to turn in all the quests. Next, I help a freedom stalker named Uncle Yar. He's a chill old man who brings us out to an irradiated village filled with zombified stalkers, and oh my god. I just realized how weird that sentence sounds. Jesus Christ. Simply walk past them and set up position inside the attic of a house before we get ambushed by a group of mercs. Afterwards, upon asking Yar what the whole ordeal was all about, he informs us that he overheard the leader of his squad discussing a lab located in central Pripyat. Of course, they didn't take too kindly to his intrusion, so he took matters into his own hands, bringing us along for the ride. The lab is something we will have to keep a note on. I should also mention that there's another blast door near one of the helicopters in Zatan, but I didn't mention it because I forgot about it until now. It's related to a quest later, so we'll keep that in the back of our minds until then. Okay, we got a fast filler episode here because this entire following questline sucks. I hate it so much. Remember Carman? He claims we stole his weapon that we bought from Nimble. Yeah, that's a lie. So I go upstairs, I talk to Nimble saying, hey, you sold me a stolen weapon. And Nimble's like, no, I didn't. So I go back down and I notice that, of course, Snag is gone. I ask someone where he went, go to the cranes. Bandits? No. Also, Snag is gone yet again, how convenient. Now we go back and wait for him to screw us over one last time. Before we head to the scientist bunker, I decided to finish a quest pertaining to duty and freedom. You most likely notice how the Yanov station has a middle, a left, and a right, all divided. Other than the middle room, we have duty on one side and freedom on the other. Talking to either leader, you'll learn that duty and freedom are at war officially, but since they're so far north of their respective bases, they decided it's best to maintain neutrality for the better of everyone. Remember Morgan, the duty guy in the exosuit that was trying to sell weapons to the bandits back in Zatan? Well, he had a PDA on him. You can sell it to Owl, but if you want to hold on to it, you can fork it over to either of the leaders to receive a quest to help either side attack a warehouse with tons of gear. Real quick, let's go over which side you should help. For duty, they're a strict paramilitary group who wants to explore the secrets of the zone so they can harness whatever they find to destroy it. Seeing how brutal survival is out here, especially in Anomaly, I honestly can understand their motives, especially after playing Misery. That game broke me. They're often referred to as fascists by the so-called anarchists that the duty referred to the freedom guys as. In this game by various other factions as well, but they are kind of pricks, I'm not gonna lie. But it's not the worst motive. It's something you can understand after you see enough snorks get blown up by anomalies. This stuff is scary. Now, as for freedom, they believe the zone should be free territory for stalkers alike. They dislike duty because of their gatekeeping attempts, and I mean, well, it's not like the zone's getting any bigger. My brother in Christ. What is this? Also, Pripyat's ending does confirm this to be true, so yeah, we'll help duty for now. If you're part of the Stalker meme community, I am very sorry. I will receive any punishment after my work is complete. I head over to assist the duty squad in removing defenders from their warehouse. I also almost died because a duty member threw a grenade right at me in an attempt to take out an injured freedom guy. You're lucky I'm too lazy to reload a save. Inside the warehouse, we can find various weapons, ammo, grenades, medkits, all that stuff, along with a universal protection suit and a gas mask. I just sell it all since I won't be removing my exosuit anytime soon until, the final quest in this area if you played Stalker Call of Pripyat. But it's nice to have if you're still rocking Barge's Sunrise suit. Now that that's all done, we can finally help out the eggheads. I like their questline, it's pretty fun and the rewards aren't the worst. Before I conduct any business, I inquire about their mission and what they stand for. After bypassing government lackeys, they finally got permission to set up shop in the zone. Primary goal is to accelerate the world of science by a colossal scale, discovering why the zone works the way it does, and providing a logical, backed by evidence explanation for it all. They only just cracked the surface with the phenomena in the zone, but it's difficult since the zone is rapidly changing as if something's growing bigger. The entire science element in Stalker just fascinates me. I love how the zone can be easily explained by the laws of science that we know now, but it defies it at the same time. It's unexplainable to us currently, but we can still learn what makes it all tick. The zone is described as a changing, living organism, and it hates us. The zone is a place of horrors for humanity, not just because it can't be explained by known logic, but because it wants us out. The emissions, the rapid mutations of mutants, all towards the very team that developed their own phenomena just to keep stalkers out of the northern reaches of the zone. We are bacteria, a plague, a cancer. The zone wants us gone. Doesn't care if it eats us up when we're the equivalent of bile, cause it'll just spit us out. Also, a little plug for Roadside Picnic, the science fiction novel that inspired Stalker. Go read it. The book is amazing. I really like the protagonist for some reason, more so than any other book I've read, and it's overall just really nice. I mean, I read it in high school and I'm a Zoomer, so if I can read it, you can too. Go pick it up. Anyway, now that this unneeded tangent is over with, we accept our first mission. We must locate an artifact which will provide as a test sample for Dr. Herman. At first, there's just zombies, some navigation of electrical anomalies before we actually find the sample, which looks like a slinky. It's pretty funny, I like it. Open the blast door before the stalkers all drop their weapons and start holding their heads as if they are in serious pain. And of course, there is a controller that attacks them, slicing into their minds. If you don't take out the controller soon, the stalkers will attack you. But you can still save them, ignoring a really annoying quest later on if you were to fail saving them, and you receive stash coordinates by the group's leader, so it's not bad. Also, a little nice detail, you can find them later with advanced gear, exosuits, these I forgot what they're called, but little hazmat suits. I never knew this, actually. This is a really nice touch. The stash is also placed inside of this excavator, and is by far one of the worst stashes I've ever had to grab. I swear to God, Stalker in general has some terrible stash placements, I swear. Hey, remember when I said Snag would screw us over again? Yeah, he stole our stash. Great. We'll deal with this later because I just do not care at the moment. Herman wants us to venture into an anomalous field to place down scanners for research. Not only will we get paid for this, but we can also ask if any of the artifacts spawned into the map, saving us some time. There's this platforming section at one of them that I really hate. Got the artifact though. I decided to investigate rumors of mutants inside of this train station. Inside are two burrs, which are these typical 5'11" fat guys rocking a telekinesis plasmid. They drain your stamina, make you drop your weapon, and throw boxes at you. It's scary and annoying. It's absolutely amazing. It's not. I did this funny thing called lying. I hate fighting these guys. Their force field doesn't help their cause. Yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? No, it does not. Final quest I tackle real quick for these guys is just guiding a stalker squad to take readings and scan various anomalies. I'm gonna be completely honest, it sucks. It takes way too long. At least the game is beautiful.
Well, I've got a lot of stories to tell. Can I tell you about my time working for the scientists?
Really, dude? I just did that 10 minutes ago. Also, I helped out a stalker named Vano by wiping out bandits that locked him into a trap of interest accumulation. That's how this went. You're welcome, Vano. Stay safe, man. I asked the medic if he's seen who stole my stuff, and he mentioned something about Zulu's tower. I asked Zulu, and he claims he shot a machine gun at them because they're Eastern European, and they fled to a rest stop.
Open
wide, punk.
Relax, moron. Okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe he didn't like that. That was probably not a good idea on my part. Yeah, I'm not giving him a medkit. Could you tell I hate this quest? I did book a trip back to Zatan to continue a quest for Owl, where I gave 3 Veils detectors to the scientist's mechanic. I get the notification that Owl is ready, and he hands me what's called a Svarog detector, a prototype. The Svarog detector is the highest tier detector you can obtain in Stalker Call of Pripyat. Not only does it show exactly where the artifact is, but it also lists all the hazards on the radar. The bottom center represents you, so all you have to do is make sure that the area of your detector doesn't collide with any of the hazard symbols. Of course, I'm an idiot, so I still managed to hit the anomalies. Owl is upset that Beard didn't want to hold up his end of the bargain, so instead he gives us the last detector for free. But I ignore Owl, and Beard sends us on a mission to find an artifact known as the Compass. It's said that it can guide anyone through and out of an anomaly field. Someone would surely pay quite a bit for this. Search must be truly challenging. Let's see if Noah knows the whereabouts. Oh. He just gave it to me. Well, that kinda sucks, actually. Wow. Beard pays us to tell Owl to cough up his side of the money, and that's it. Yeah, that's enough. Back to Jupiter. Remember Gonta? Well, in Zatan, I helped him take out a chimera they were hunting. The hunter in Jupiter wants us to get payback on another chimera that ended a life of a fellow hunter. I track it down, and I attempt to fire a grenade at it, but I completely miss because I don't know how to aim this thing in Stalker. This next part is actually pretty scary because I did not know where it ran off to. Thankfully, it made an attempt to charge at me when I wasn't looking before I promptly one-shotted it. Turn in both quests and carry on with my day. 2 things.
Steady.
1, upgrade the newer VSS because a 30-round mag is better than 10. 2, this prick. As I'm searching for artifacts, I hear a moan of pain. Find a loner on the ground that suffered from the effects of chemical burns inside of the anomaly field. He claims a fellow stalker left him here to die. I try to offer a medkit, but it's no use. He succumbs to his injuries. As I enter Yanov Station, I conveniently overhear a stalker telling a similar but exaggerated story. By the way, this is Magpie, that same guy that Gonta wanted us to find, that betrayed them. I call him out, but he claims I have no proof, so with that being said, I snitch on him to the opposing leader of his group, the duty guy. Next thing I know, Magpie is gone. I imagine they brought him outside and shot him, feeding his corpse to the dogs like he deserves. I also tell Gonta that I dealt with him. That's the end of that. We talked with the other professor and he informs us about a location called Oasis. It says the waters there can heal any wound and ailment, and he wants evidence of its existence. Exploring around, you'll come across this building. Inside are some zombies and a ton of mutant rats. I try to knife them to save ammo, but surprisingly they almost tore me apart, despite me wearing an exosuit. I'm just saying, if I were to die to them, this video most likely would have been cancelled out of anger and embarrassment. Continue to climb through the pipework and you'll come across a lone light shining away. Continuing forward, you'll see pillars that are laid out symmetrically, almost as if they're a gate. Just walk through them and you'll come across a similar looking room. Okay, you know, maybe they're just reusing assets of what the fuck. Yeah, it's a loop. This is kind of annoying, but I thankfully, by chance, got it done pretty fast. When you see the empty space shine, that signifies that it's the correct one. Just keep walking through different pillars until the loop ends, bringing you to the Oasis. Near the water upon a lone tree, there lies the heart of the Oasis. When you pick it up, the pseudo-dog comes after you. Yeah, it's a lot scary. It looks a lot scarier than it actually is. Just shoot them. The artifacts in Call of Pripyat are significantly nerfed compared to the predecessors, but it's not a bad artifact to hang on to. However, I dislike not having a clean quest log, so I decided to turn it in. Pick up one more mission where the other professor, I'm not pronouncing his name, that's why I call him the other professor, wants to test a theory if scanning anomalies provokes the mutant hordes. Spoiler alert, it does. A snork on fire charging at you is indeed horrifying. Turn in the quest and accelerate science by a large margin. Cool. Pick up a quest to plant more scanners and to find documents. However, this brings us towards the main objectives of the game, so we will be doing that. There is one more side quest we can do, but we'll save that near the end. Before I head to the main objectives, I quickly plant some scanners, get jump scared by a controller, seriously, this horrified me, and I find a stash that I didn't know was in the game. I make my way towards what looks to be a depot. I pick off zombified stalkers one by one before heading inside. However, the cage is locked. Behind it are weapons, so most importantly, an entire RPG with some ammo to boot. In another room, I find a note from a soldier named Sokolov, the same military man we found inside the scientist's bunker. On it is a code. This allows us to head down, input the code, and we enter an underground section of this facility. I make some really bad throws that really scared me. You can tell just from my movement alone. But I eventually eliminate the horde of rats just by shooting them, before creeping my way through a crawl space. I take out a burr, and I am able to unlock the cage after I secure the precious rocket launcher. I make my way to the crashed helicopter. However, if you pay close attention, you'll see that there's a sign that warns you of landmines. You really have to listen close because you'll get one-shotted if you're not careful. I make my way across, and I'd normally sum up what Degtyarev says, but since I haven't done this in a while, I'll play a video of me petting my cat while the protagonist sums up what happened.
2 bodies. Looks like they died in the crash. Everything of value has been looted and the onboard computer has been wiped clean. But the black box is still intact. Interesting. I reckon a decent technician will be able to extract the information on it and decode it.
Oh, and in case you're wondering, no, you don't have to navigate your way back because of this. Alright, so that means it's safe, right? I bring the black box to Nitro, but he says it'll take about 3 hours before he can crack it. Instead of girl rotting in my girl bed, I decide to complete other objectives. Soviet bloc buildings tower above us. Make my way inside the closest one to secure some documents for Herman. As I make it to the room, I'm ambushed.
You shouldn't have come here, Stalker. Now you will be worm food.
Yeah, it didn't work out for you, did it? That's my favorite line in the game, by the way. After wiping out the mercs, I read the PDAs I looted, and we found out that these mercs were the same ones guarding the scientist's bunker. They had ulterior motives, that being that they wanted to ensure that none of the information makes its way to the nerds about any X designation projects. Anyway, I dispatched some dogs for exploring the building, which confirms that there is a route to Pripyat via an underground tunnel system. I enter the building across from me and make my way through a complex before I find the final helicopter. For this one, it's the same deal involving electronics. They're fried, but the hardware to protect the helicopter from emissions is intact. No concrete answers yet, just more questions. Finally, I make my way to an open room that contains an elevator in the middle. Inside the control booth, I learn that the tunnels were flooded with gas. With all this information, I make my way back to Nitro after I finish crawling through shock anomalies to obtain fine tools. When we pay Nitro, the recording plays, telling us about a new evacuation point. Regardless of what we know so far, all roads lead to Pripyat. So I inform Nitro that I need to bypass the tunnels with his help. He agrees to assist us, but we must gather a squad, as well as a suit with a closed-cycle respiratory module. Nitro points us to Zulu. Immediately, Zulu wants to discuss the plan with us, with the catch being that we must drink with him because we're Slavic, so why would we not do that? It's kind of funny because this is happening during an mission. This game is so raw sometimes, I love it. You can boast about your accomplishments, some dialogue that gives you hints on who you can talk to recruit, but eventually we do pass out from slamming multiple bottles. I wake up and I get to work. I complete a few more scientist missions, first by giving the notes to Herman along with Black's PDA, but unfortunately we now have to find new guards. Topol's squad doesn't want to do it, they'd rather stick with just scanning anomalies. Go to talk to Shulga and he agrees to send some new guards their way. Herman then sends me to use a Svarog detector to locate an anomaly. As I get there, I climb up and I witness this giant sphere of energy floating in the sky. I reach closer, but the energy is suddenly released, dropping, oh my god. That is actually horrifying, Jesus Christ. I go to loot the bodies, take all their weapons, and I pick up a PDA off one of the corpses. To sum it all up, this is a duty squad, and the PDA belongs to the very creator of duty. They're stuck inside this anomaly, eventually most of the stalkers in the squad going crazy and shooting each other and then themselves. The only visual reference we even have about this anomaly is just fog. This is honestly horrifying, and I kind of love it at the same time. I hope ideas like this are explored more in Stalker 2. Scary stuff. I do turn in the PDA to Shulga since the squad belonged to the very duty creator, and we decide to keep that under wraps because that's just some horrifying shit. Now, let's recruit our squad. Since we're already here, I go up to Vano. You have to pay him $5 grand to get his suit back, but he's a G, and I help him out, and he agrees to help us, so why not? We have plenty of money to burn. Next, I go over to the bunker and I collect a plant anomaly in exchange for a suit for Sokolov. Since we're military as well, it's only fair we help him out too and get him to his squad to get him out of the zone. Now, the final member of our team, a man named Strider. If you're keeping an eye on the Stalker 2 promotional trailers, it's confirmed that Strider will be in the second game, so we'll try to keep him alive to keep up with the current canon. Be sure to maintain trigger discipline because these guys are ex-Monolith. Stalkers that went too far north, and if they weren't zombified, they become indoctrinated into the Monolith cult that worships the Wish Granter and obelisks. After the events of the first game, most soldiers like Strider and his squad awake from their trance. Now being free of the influence of the sea consciousness, they're just wandering, having nowhere to go. I go back to Yanov and I vouch for them so Shulga will take them in. After they're indoctrinated in the duty, I ask Strider if he wants to join, and he agrees, thus finishing our squad. Purchase my own suit, upgrade as much as I possibly can, and we finally make our way to the facility to commence Operation Pripyat 1. I love this section. The underground is compact with various junk and scrapped cars, and there are lots of snorks, rats, and anomalies. Thankfully, the shotgun I bought makes short work of the mutants when they get too close. Some of them get very close, but nothing that a few shots of buckshot and VSS fire can't handle. I love traversing tunnels like this with full squads. It just feels so cool. To me, I kind of nerd out over it. Bono does actually help guide you through anomalies too, so that's always nice. It was worth bringing him along. We enter a station for switching the trains. The door is locked though due to a power outage. So I explore around until one of my squad mates points out a generator. I climb up, activate it, then we're suddenly brought into a firefight against Monolith forces. Without our exosuit, these guys laser us. It is pretty brutal at first. It is a little challenging, but eventually we do prevail. Whether the Monolith soldiers are stuck in their trance or whether they're just fighting on instinct or out of fear is unknown. Climb my way up to the booth and open the door, taking out snipers, getting railed, yes I said that word without laughing, getting revenge, and then we move on. We fight the last few rats and snorks before we take on a wave of zombies. Soon, we hit a ladder and I begin to ascend out of this hellhole. During a cutscene, we see an army squad take up position after hearing something coming from the shed. Zulu pops open the door and everyone climbs out, except for me being the last person, because even though I was the first one to climb the ladder, it's a Eurojank game that you paid for, so continuity is not something you will see. These devs spent time making these animations, and damn it, you are gonna watch them. The military tells us to drop our weapons, but Sokolov does reveal himself as a pilot, but I trump him because I'm just cooler. Step forward and announce that we're USS, sent to investigate the failure of Operation Fairway. Everyone except Zulu is pretty shocked.
I knew it!
Where Zulu is actually pretty angry that he even worked with a Special Forces operative. If you couldn't tell, the military aren't really well loved in this franchise. Brought to the leader of the operation, Colonel Kowalski. We are to assist a squad in ambushing a Monolith squad that wield a strange weapon that could be the culprit that causing the helicopters to crash. You can ask him about the operation, details about the Stingray helicopters, and so on if you care enough. Pick up some gear and I set off with Captain Tarasov. Take up our positions, and once they're out in the open, I open fire. I drop down and loot the bodies when we're suddenly ambushed. I die almost immediately because of course I ran into the building where they were spawning inside of, before reloading a save and systematically making my way through each area of the hospital, taking out soldier after soldier before I climb to the roof. I look out and I see our sniper cover was taken out. So thinking that someone's on top of the roof, peek around and see if there's any Monolith when I suddenly get dropped. This guy quite literally railed me, yes I use the same joke twice, over and over, again and again, until I quickly picked up a sniper rifle off of one of his fallen comrades and shot this guy off of the roof. Going down to where he fell, I go to the weapon. This is a Gauss rifle, powered by fucking batteries. This has the capability of 1 or 2-shotting every enemy in the game, with the catch being that it has a limited ammo pool for the entirety of the game. You'll most likely only find 50 shots of this thing. It also has a really low rate of fire. As you can see, only one other soldier and myself survived. I report back to Kowalski, tell him that we took some losses even though the entire squad was decimated, when he receives a report from a scout team that sounded very distressed.
We're all dead.
Also, this is Gary. I did some boring quests for him back in Jupiter that I didn't really care to cover. His whole purpose is to bring you back to Zatan and Jupiter so you can still explore and go back for your gear, which I promptly do, before heading out at night to find the scouts. They're dead. Upon observation, it would appear that they were shot. Before moving on to my next objective, take a quick stop at some department store. Sounds to be like someone's voice is being emitted through the walls and the doors. As you open them though, you see that they're just rats. They sound really eerie to me in this section. I don't know why, but I like it. Pure horror is needed in Stalker. I make my way through cautiously, opening each door and see a single rat utilize the power of God to slam a barrel across the room before it descends. Go down, navigate a flame and chemical anomaly, and then I secure an artifact for some money before leaving through a manhole. Even though it was just an artifact, I really enjoyed the build-up in this area. Some alright side content. I should also note that Pripyat is kind of a disappointment. Quality is clearly not the same as it was in Zatan and Jupiter. Most areas aren't even worth exploring since a quarter of them are related to quests, with one of them being downright impossible to enter until you get a specific quest and an item that will grant you access. While we storm a group of monolith held out inside of a bookstore, I meet up with my reinforcements, which are Sokolov and Vano. We make our way up to the entrance and we wipe out the guards before I almost die to this sneaky little guy because I decided to peek right instead of left. I go upstairs to see if I can get a drop on the group in the other room by throwing a grenade, but as you can see I completely missed, so I ran away screaming and waking up my mother at 3 a.m, so that was fun. Then Sokolov and I enter the room and eliminate the praying stalkers. I inspect the obelisk. Dektyrev reports that it's just a pile of junk, but it does form a radio antenna, implying that someone is talking to the soldiers. It would seem these stalkers are under someone's influence, perhaps another sect of the sea consciousness. Doesn't explain Strider's circumstance though. And we won't find that out until Stalker 2, because other than this little encounter when you're at the new base in the laundromat, Strider will just disappear without any warning. However, other than Stalker 2, he is a character in a fan-made spin-off book called Stalker: Southern Comfort, which was given the go-ahead by GSC Game Worlds themselves. Didn't even know this book existed until now, so there you go. Maybe I'll pick it up myself someday. I still have to find a technician that can fix the weapon, so I go to Zatan and I hand it over to Cardon. Suddenly he zones out after examining the item. I guess almost like he just slammed 3 bottles of vodka. While I wait for him to come back to his senses, I go off to explore. First, I find Zulu, cornered in the ruined section of a school as Snorks surround him. I assist, telling him about our base after we finish dealing with the Snorks before I go off and continue my silly little personal scouting mission. I look off and I see this giant branch structure that holds chemical anomalies in the center, as well as a patrolling ball of green. This is gonna hurt me, isn't it? If you manage to climb to the highest peak of the branch, you'll be rewarded with an RP-74, along with some additional supplies, which becomes obsolete because once you return to the laundromat, Zulu tells you he's returning, so he gives you his version, which is just better in every way. The RP-74 is broken, but I'll get into that much later. I love this gun. The last spot I want to explore is a station where upon getting close to the main entrance, a whole dog flies out from the 2nd floor. I lurk around, grab some artifacts, take a load of damage because I stepped into an electrical anomaly because I'm such a silly Billy, before I make my way up to the top and get scared by a burrower. A reward other than the artifacts that we found is a set of calibration tools. There is another set we can find in the outskirts, but I'm not doing that because I just do not care. Sorry Nitro, but I'll accept 1 quest incomplete in my journal. I go back to Cardon where it's revealed that he knows of the weapon because he helped invent it back before the Chernobyl incident, going as far back as 2004, before the idea was scrapped. Sum it all up, he gives me his access card and we enter below the courtyard and into a facility. Inside are just a bunch of zombified stalkers and some random assets to make the place look like a research lab. But when we enter a long room, I get jumped by what's called a pseudo-giant, I think. I don't know, I'm not googling it because I'm lazy. Who tanks an entire mag of my MG before I finally put it down with my trusty VSS, which I accidentally made semi-auto because I don't like reading upgrade prompts. Climb my way and jump down into the vents and into a room to obtain the schematics before I hand them over to Cardon. Our reward? The Gauss rifle itself. This thing is a fantastic weapon for the endgame. Sure, you'll most likely die trying to use it the first time due to its slow fire rate. I mean, I underestimated it and I got dropped, so that's from experience. However, it is downright pinpoint accurate and it is extremely deadly. Other than the limited amount of ammo that you can find in the game, it is a really nice weapon to rock. When I return to Kowalski, we conclude that this weapon couldn't have shot down the other helicopters, because they had electronic malfunctions. Sent out to meet up with a singular scout. When I arrive, he's shooting and yapping, clearly fighting his own demons along with fighting against a system by not taking his silly meds. I just watch him jankily do his silly little thing where he makes himself no longer existing in this part of the world. pointed towards our next objective, and now, inside, I will show you what this weapon is capable of. When fully upgraded, Zulu's RP-74 is a monster of a gun. I go room to room, floor to floor, just mowing down zombies and monolith fanatics alike, till I reach the top floor and turn on an elevator which will allow us to descend down to the X8 labs. I personally love these underground sections in the Stalker series. The ones in Call of Pripyat aren't nearly as scary as the sections in Shadow of Chernobyl, but they still have their moments, especially X8. Oh my god, anomalous kettle! Other than poltergeists being dicks, I brush through various rats, occasionally scaring myself. Dang, dude. I find this room with 3 burrs and this happens. Really, dude? A lot of backtracking, but I eventually find all the documents, which shed some light on the lore and the activities of the scientists, such as experiments along with rapid mutations of mutants due to emissions that were emitted from the zone. Oh yeah, watch this sick shot. I love this gun. The devs knew you would too, and I'm so glad it's an option to use in this game. I go off on my own and I hunt down the remains of the monolith forces that are held out in the area. I sweep through them easily, definitely not dying by the way, totally not, before making my way to another camp across the street. As I systematically take out the guards, I engage in a firefight with the remnants before I climb up and throw a grenade at their priest, who survives because this game sucks, where I then knife him in the back in one hit. Picking up his PDA, you'll get 2 stash coordinates on the roof of this building and right across from it, which hold military medkits and batteries for your Gauss rifle. While I was up here, one monolith soldier came back on a scouting mission, I'd imagine, and he was being rather rude by throwing a fucking grenade right at my feet, perfectly at my position. I returned the favor by chucking all my frags towards and around his general direction, completely missing him. Instead, I just peeked over the roof and shot him and every single last guy that was left, because the high ground always wins, rendering them done dirty in front of a squad. An mission starts, but instead of holding out inside of this perfectly destroyed building that I can use as cover, I girl run all the way back to the base and sleep through it instead. Kowalski wants to have a private word with me. He reiterates our problems and gives us the goal of finding the squad that went out to locate the radio interference. Before leaving, Gary brings up something about a group of mercs that were going to meet outside at the apartment complex nearby the laundromat. But they didn't show up for me because I completely forgot about them until now, because my Zoomer brain wanted to run through Soviet-era decay instead. Hey, spoiler alert on the squad, they're dead, because the game is running out of ideas for their 2011 product. I loot an explosive off of one of them before we're directed back at the kindergarten. Side effects are strong, but I do have side block thankfully, but the ghost people are very annoying. However, we do find the interference. It says to destroy it somehow, and I didn't really catch on to this right away, but I decide, screw it, I'm just gonna throw every grenade in my inventory at it, which then shows off the destruction physics that most likely took 4 years to code before I jump down and find the doctor from our base inside of a fridge. I don't have any words for this in all honesty. How did you even get in here? We detect a signal and I'm sent out to find it. Once it's picked up, I follow it around and it eventually leads us to a sewer. Like Tyrev discovering the source is coming from the underground. I head back to prepare for an attack, when someone tells us to hold our fire, and then a stalker approaches. Yeah, spoiler alert if you weren't paying attention, this is Strelok, protagonist of the first game. He claims to have knowledge on how to destroy the zone, those who might be responsible, which implies more C consciousness groups, maybe something greater. It reveals the big mystery. The reason for the helicopters crashing were due to the fact that the emissions changed the location of anomalies, practically shifting the entire zone every single time an emission happens. This makes the maps of the anomalies rendered useless, explaining why the helicopters crashed. Yes, the operation was a complete failure because of poor military intel. Amazing. We wait out a rather intense mission, inform the commander of what we know, and we then set out for evacuation with what little remains of our squad. We must protect Strelok so we can return in Stalker 2. We march with our goon squad against zombies, tummy aches, and a final onslaught of monolith forces, before we reach the center where a poorly done cutscene plays. I'm gonna be honest though, this whole last section, like no music plays or anything, it doesn't really feel that epic. It's kinda cool, walking around with the remnants of the military in Strelok. I don't know, it felt so underwhelming. The final sections of this game are not its strongest suit. We're given the choice of ending the game. Once it's all done, we can leave the zone. Stills play, giving us the endings for each character based on our actions, and then the credits roll. Although I found the final stretch of the game to be underwhelming, I still had a great time with Stalker Call of Pripyat. Zatan and Jupiter are great locations to explore and engage with. Each quest feels like it has its own place in the world, rather than just being something radiant thrown in to help the player accumulate money to progress. I do believe that the atmosphere is at its best, each location having a unique personality to it, as well as the entire game gameplay-wise, feels fleshed out for the most part. I do think Shadow of Chernobyl did do some things better, like the horror elements, underground sections, set pieces, narrative, music, and even the cutscenes are actual cutscenes instead of just these janky in-engine attempts. I do think that Call of Pripyat is a better game though. Of course, the vanilla game still has its problems, and without the addition of A-Life, another mod that is mostly found in mods like Anomaly and its mod packs, that enhances the world encounters in the zone and gives it more life, I still think the game holds up and is worth a playthrough or two. Of course, due to this game releasing in 2011, and the modern Stalker mods being built on an upgraded engine, the mods for Stalker kinda trumps the vanilla games a bit. However, with all that being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching and for even making it this far. I'm still learning a ton about improving my editing and voiceovers of my videos, but I'm sure improvement will come with time. I hope you decide to stick around. I plan on making more long-form videos like this one, as well as continuing to dabble back in the Stalker content in the future. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.